first part of the August update is a quick little review and showing of the Blair line church kit that I just recently put together. I had probably mentioned it in the last update. I can't remember if I had made up my mind, if I had it on order, but I decided to go with this kit, and I'm pretty psyched that I did. Granted, I don't have the Walthers one to compare it to in real life, but I'm glad the way this one came out. It's the peel and stick laser cut wood format that Blair line is most notable for. I'm pretty pleased with the way it assembled, and this is how it looks probably in this location or in this orientation. It's gonna probably shift a little bit depending on how this road comes out. I need to finish that. I put some plaster down this morning. It's actually some kind of compound, which I really probably shouldn't be using, but it's what I had, and I wanted to do some progress this morning on this section. So it's probably gonna, be in this, it's gonna be in this area, but it may get tweaked a little bit here or there, but that's where it's gonna sit, and I'm pretty pleased with how it looks. Overall, it looks pretty good in any kind of angle of the scene. It looks good in the background, and then it looks pretty decent up here. So I'm pretty pleased with the kit, how it assembled, how it looks on the actual layout, how I was kind of anticipating how it would look. It pretty much meets my expectations. The peel and stick is something that I'm not a huge fan of. I think I have two other Blair lines. I think this is a Blair line kit, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. And then I have like a general store on the main section of the layout. I didn't really have any issues with it. I think probably I didn't follow the directions quite closely on the two large panels that run vertically on the front and front side of the steeple part. So that I had some issues. I had to take them off to get them kind of making it look like the door was centered on there. It's not perfect, but it works. There's a few gaps under there, which is kind of annoying in this section here. Not necessarily underneath this section, but on the corner here, that kind of bothers me. I could fill that in, but for what it is and where it is, it's not bad. So overall, I think the construction went pretty well. The thing I guess I'm not a huge fan of with the stripping is that sometimes you do see those tabs if it's not assembled perfectly and the strips don't quite cover that tab. I would suggest either they make the tabs a little shorter, I guess I could adjust that myself, or make the stripping just a touch wider to cover that. You can see the gap in the tab and then the gap underneath the tab, and that's kind of a little annoying to have to deal with. I tried to do the best I could with most of the other sections, but that one part, of course, it's on the front side that you see. But a shrub or something, I could, who knows, I can get rid of that pretty easily with some creativity. But that's just one little annoying thing when you're adding those peel and stick molding pieces, you have to watch out for. My other criticism of the kit, overall, again, I love the kit. Works great, fits great, looks great, assembled great. I have no problem with Blair line. But the other criticism I have, which I can replace, is the shingles on here are actually just printouts. They're 2D print. It's just one sheet. There's not a what's the word? There's no texture to it. It's just like an inkjet or a laser jet printout. It's not like the other shingles that I have on the layout where there's actual dimension to them, if you can make that out. So I can re-shingle it, but I just thought again, the kit wasn't super expensive, but it would have been nice if it wasn't just a sheet. With some weathering, I think I can probably make it look pretty decent. Again, it's not a big issue, but that would be my other little criticism. I have to adjust the cross as that's obnoxiously crooked. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with it. I did add chipping solution, the Vallejo solution that I've used on all my other models, and I have not done any chipping yet. The way my airbrush technique on top of the chipping solution on top of laser cut wood, it usually, to my liking, looks pretty decent. I could weather it more, but I kind of like the way it looks right now, so I'm gonna probably leave it. It doesn't look brand new. It's not like a plastic kit that takes a little bit more work to get it to look more realistic. So for now, I think I'm gonna probably leave it. And that brings me to the next section of some airbrushing that I've been doing around the layout. So let's get into that section. So this morning I had the airbrush going. I did a few things. I was gonna airbrush the road, and then I took a closer look at it and realized I needed to put some plaster down to smooth things out. So that's drying, and I will have to wait and get the airbrush up again at some point. But I did start to airbrush and do an undercoating of these two tanks. They actually look a lot darker in person. They look kind of light on camera here, but that's going to be kind of the rust undercoating that I will have. So when I paint on top, I will then chip away the top paint to get to this layer. So that's kind of, this is kind of the starting process of that. So I'm going to add chipping fluid on top of this, and then airbrush color on top of that, and then start chipping away, and it should reveal this color, and then I can add layers on top. But that's kind of a new technique that I wanted to try, so I'm going to try that with these two oil tanks. The other few things that I airbrushed, I had started to work on this scene still. So I have some fencing that I'm gonna do, probably not this stuff. This is like wood, but I just finished airbrushing on top of this because I had the other night added the Vallejo chipping solution on top of these. I used a gray primer rattle can to prime them, then I used chipping solution, and then I just airbrushed them white, and then I will start to chip these. And this fence, the picket fence, will go up here in some fashion. I may cut it and fix it or fit it and arrange it so that it looks decent up there in some kind of way. And then I have the wood framing, or the wood fencing, that I will probably add in portions along the roadway here or in other areas around the layout. I have a bunch more of these strips, but I started with these two pieces of each kind to add in different sections. I think I took, well, this fence was originally up here, if you remember from past videos, and I took that off and put it in this section here to kind of give this little structure here kind of its own area. It might be kind of a scrap yard, or like I'm at a loss for words today, sorry. Like an appliance, or I don't want to say a scrap or junkyard, but maybe like an appliance or a motor kind of repair facility or something. So I'm not sure what's gonna go here, but this little area is starting to take shape in between the North of Ave track here and the main line. So this little area is starting to shape up. And what else did I airbrush? Oh, I will go into the back here, and I started to airbrush and weather my GP9 blue box. And so I started to do that on top to kind of dull down that orange. And comparing this to the Proto 2000 that I just got, it looked way too clean and orange, so I started to weather it a little bit more. It doesn't run completely smooth. I mean, it runs pretty darn well for an Athearn blue box with a Digitrax decoder in it, but I just took it off the layout and put it in the staging area back here for now, just for ops and stuff. It will be easier to have a little bit less on the tracks. And so far, while I'm back here, the runaround back here, or the staging track, has been doing pretty well. I haven't had any running issues, so that's good as far as an update on that. And I've done quite a bit of running using this area, so that has worked out pretty well, and that's going to be it for this section. The next section is a little shout out to an Instagram modeler. I'm sure there's other presents that he has, but I know I primarily follow his Instagram. It's Rockwell05, and he's an amazing modeler, has an amazing layout, and always look forward to when he posts something new. And there's quite a bit that's on my layout that's honestly been influenced by him greatly. This little section here is inspired by a section of his layout. It's been modified and so forth, but I use his layout for a lot of inspiration. And this section here, this little retaining wall, is inspired by one of his little areas on his layout. So what I used is, I forget the dimensions, but I used the reinforcements that I use on my scratch-built structures. I used those strips and created, get Willoughby Garage back in there, and I used the strips to make a retaining wall. And then yesterday, I think, and the day before, I've been working on getting the Sculptamold and the scenery in there. So I finally got the first layer of scenery down. I'm planning on putting up this fence for safety. I don't want anybody falling into the road. So this fence will go somewhere like this, and then probably across the back a little bit. I've got a lot more of that stuff that I can use. And I added the driveway, which I'm pretty pleased with. And then I've started to map out a couple of other ideas for structures in these two sections here, one right across the driveway here, and then one across the street from the church, which leads me to my next section. But I'm super psyched with that retaining wall, how it came out. I think the bottom of it looks a little better. The top is a little rough, and there's too many diagonal lines cut. If you look, not to be too picky, but if you look at, like, from here up, there's a lot of grain that kind of distracts from the horizontal separation between the boards, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it gets the job done. I could sand that part maybe and try to smooth it out and then go back in and carve the lines in between the boards. But I think this section here where you have the cross pieces, like the every other one coming out perpendicular, I think that helps make it look good. And then once I get some shrubbery and foliage around there, I think that should help mask it, especially with the fence. It'll kind of blend in. So I'm pretty psyched with that. And that brings me to the next portion. Just to segue into this, I started to get some trees around my church. The next little addition to the layout for this update has been this one piece of fascia board here. I finally got a piece for that section and painted it. Luckily, the paint I had that was the same green that I mixed. I have like, essentially here, I guess it's a quart, and it's pretty much full, and I had mixed it many months ago when I had done all the painting of everything else. And the color's still good, paint is still good, so I was able to freshen up all around. I think I ended up repainting all of this stuff. I think I mentioned in a update a while ago, I probably want to get one piece for this panel section here, and then I need to finish that section here. This is just cardboard. I probably should paint it at least the same color now that I look at it, although there's a weird gap here. I could probably get away with adding a piece of cardboard in there for now, as what's expensive, and it's just ultra cosmetic fascia at this point. But and there's so many other things I'd rather spend money on. But yeah, so I added this piece of fascia board, got it up there, and then I got my panels mounted the way I wanted them, the way they intended. So this is the panel for the yard here, Waterbury Yard, and then this is the panel for the old section, or the main, like the main layout section, or the main layout that I had started with. So that's that. So this, you know, kind of faces this whole section here, and then this faces the yard, and then I still have this one up here for Willoughby and that section. So that's a quick little fascia board and panel update. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the way it came out. the last section of this update, I just want to talk about the little tree project I've been working on. I've been using filling material for puff trees, and I haven't had much success with puff trees, probably because I just haven't fully dove head first into the process. I have just some sparse ones laying around that somebody had commented when they came down to see my layout in person that they looked like meatballs, and that is a fair assessment. So what I've tried to do is invest a little bit of time in experimenting with this stuff. I used black fiber fill and spray painted them with a gray primer, and then I just finished airbrushing them on top a light green, and then I plan on using Woodland Scenics probably coarse turf with some super leaf on top of it. And is it super leaf? I can't remember, but the same company that makes the super trees. Drawing a blank at the moment here. You can see some of the glue. I just dipped these into matte medium Mod Podge, and you can, you know, position them so you don't see that part that was on the bottom. I had them drying on wax paper. So this is soaked in matte medium, dried, and then primed, and then I just finished airbrushing them a light green just to kind of give it a good undercoat. And then I don't know if I want to invest in doing this whole hillside. I don't think it's steep enough, honestly, and I've got some rock outcroppings and things, and it's just such a big area. I don't know if I want to tackle that. And I really do like the super trees and my hydrangea, either evergreens or, I don't know if I have any back here, but my hydrangea deciduous trees. I don't see any. Oh, I think that's one there in the middle there. So yeah, I've got a hydrangea evergreen and deciduous tree, and actually I think both of those are those trees there. So intermixing the hydrangea trees that I've used in the past with super trees, I think I will continue to do. But I've been looking at particularly this hillside here. I'm going to switch the camera angle and show you what it looks like from the other side. They're just loosely placed there. They're not glued or anything. But because this is pretty much in the farthest point from a viewing standpoint, I think it helps force the perspective that they're smaller and in the background, and you see less detail, and they just kind of look clumpy. So I'm going to experiment in this area. I may try on the other side of the someday will become a river. I don't think I'll do it on this side. Again, that really looks like a meatball. That one in the middle of the screen does too. That one's a tiny meat. Actually, the color of that one looks more like meatball than any of them. But yeah, so I think when you work with them together, I'm not really sure if anybody's got some tips on doing puff trees and how to assemble them, essentially. I think I got a grasp on how to make them, even though these aren't finished, but I've done enough scenery that I can make these look decent. But as far as like assembling them, do you just pile them on top? I had thought about using dowels to kind of stand them up so it will look like they're on trunks. Let me show you from the other side how I kind of plan on doing it. I had initially put some on this part here, and they didn't look too bad. Building them up here, I had some space in between where you could kind of see through, which wasn't cool. But again, I'm experimenting. I'm just kind of, you know, putting them on here and seeing what they look like. They kind of almost stick because of the way the fiber sticks to the turf. So something like that, you know. Let me take this around and show you the other camera angle, so hang on. So on the other side, I think that actually may look okay if I kind of build them up a little bit. Again, I don't want it to be a wall. I want it to blend into my regular ones. I will probably remove these 4 in the middle and add regular super trees there. Again, it would be nice to have this densely populated. It gives the illusion of it. I think if I add more, these actually don't look too bad. They look a little bit more natural. I like the fall colors. I think The fall colors tend to look more, people I think, at least now maybe, because somebody said something about the meatball thing. I just see orange and I think meatball. So yeah, I have some work to do, but I think that actually may work back there. I think if I mix up some of the colors and have some of the fall colors, I think I just kicked over my primer. So actually that may not look too bad back there. It kind of helps add some perspective. The camera kind of is weird. If I zoom in a little, maybe I can get rid of that kind of wide angle look to it. But I think something like that might look good, so that there's more detail in the foreground, and then as you go back, it gets, you know, less detailed because they'll just be puff trees. So if I complete that hillside, maybe the one on the right side, I'm not really sure. I need to experiment. I don't want to invest too much material in this if I don't like the way it works, so I don't want to use a whole bunch of turf on these and super leaf if I'm not pleased with the result. But you can see they're just kind of piled on top. Obviously I would place them a little bit better, but you know, I don't know if I like that look. So if anybody's got some tips on how to kind of arrange them in such a way that they look good. I've seen good results of, actually I don't know if I've ever noticed on somebody's layout where they used puff trees and it looked bad. Sometimes they look a little too uniform, which I'm trying to avoid, and I kind of know how to avoid the uniformity of them. With practice, I've gotten away from just making them completely round meatballs. But yeah, so that's that. Next update, there's going to be a lot to go over. I have been, this is kind of a little prelude, I have been playing around a lot with these structures here. I've moved things around. I took off this section here. It's going to be a structure that's going to go here. I'm working on the other side of it. This is going to probably stay where it is. I have a couple of kits in the mail that are coming. I have a kit that's going to go here, and then I have a scratch built structure that I'm working on currently here that's going to go there. It's just going to be a residential house, and essentially that was a remake of the one that stood in between. It stood there, actually, I believe. I can't remember. Yeah, it stood there. I think I had this like this, and there was a structure in between, and it just didn't look right, the dimensions of it. This one looks a little weird. It looks like the third story is really kind of high up there. If I compare it to, well, actually, maybe it's a little low comparative to this. I don't know. I know I had some scaling issues with floors. This kit here, I think it's a Blair line. It really kind of bothers me because it looks so short. The second floor looks very short compared to kind of the other structures that I have. This one is completely scratch built, but I like it. I'm using the DPMs, and the Walders is kind of my base for establishing scale. But this thing was just bothering me. I didn't know if I was going to replace it with a kit, and I actually am. So I'm not sure if this is going to go here. What I did is I ordered another DPM skips chicken and ribs, or ribs and chicken or something. I don't know. I bought a duplicate of this kit here, which I'm going to put in some fashion here. Again, I don't know the orientation, whether this is going to go here and that's going to go there. I can't remember what I like the best, but that's going to go there. I've got the scratch built one here, and then a kit there. So there will be a lot in the new update, or the next update rather. And I also have a new locomotive that will debut. I had a problem with a decoder. Actually, it wasn't a problem with the decoder. It was, well, yeah, I guess they updated the locomotive and the company that I usually buy decoders from didn't update their website, so I ended up getting the wrong decoder. It was a whole thing. So the decoder should be here tomorrow, so that's exciting to look forward to. Hopefully that will be up and running with the correct decoder. So yeah, a lot to look forward to. Next updates. Thanks for sticking around on this one. Have a safe end of your summer, and we'll see you in September.